In part 1, I already showed you 5 ways to add parallax to Elementor when you don't have Elementor Pro. But today I'm going to show you the amazing parallax possibilities that come with Elementor Pro
motion effects.
Hello, I'm your host Casino. I'm a digital alchemist, and today I'm going to show you how to add beautiful parallax and motion effects with the power of Elementor Pro. Now, as mentioned in the intro, in part 1, which you will find a link to in the description of this episode, I showed you 5 ways to add parallax to the free version of Elementor. One of these 5 ways was completely free, copying and pasting code, and the other 4 ways were using third-party premium add-ons for Elementor. So, with that done, today I want to focus on the amazing capabilities of Elementor Pro, and if you've watched part 1, you will appreciate even more the ease of use of Elementor Pro's built-in amazing motion effects. I love the fact that you can implement those effects without the need of additional plugins, because while some of these plugins are great, others can be buggy at times. So, enough talk.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so first let's have a look at what we're going to build. So I'm going to start scrolling, and you can see it's very subtle, but we have a vertical parallax effect here. Then on the second section, we have a more pronounced parallax effect. And when I move over with the mouse, you can see some mouse parallax on the 2 planets here. Okay, let's go further. So now if you move to the third section, you can see that the globe here is rotating. And at the same time, we have some horizontal parallax in the background. So let me show you again. So it's very subtle, but it really brings another level of interactivity to a web page. So let's move to the fourth and last section, and you can see, so first you don't see anything here. Then you start seeing some blurry planets coming up, and when we move down, you can see it more clearly, and it's rotating. So on this one, I've added a few effects like transparency, scale, blur, and I will show you that just in a second. So let's go to the WordPress admin and let's start editing with Elementor Pro. Okay, so now we are in WordPress admin, and the first thing you want to do is go to Pages. And I've already created a page, and if you've seen part 1 of this series, then you know what page I'm talking about, and if you don't, you're just about to discover in a second. So hover over your page name and click on Edit with Elementor. Okay, so now we're in Elementor, and of course, as I mentioned in the intro of this video, this only works if you have Elementor Pro. If you just trying to add parallax with the free version of Elementor, then just watch part 1 of this series, and of course you will find a link in the description of this episode. Okay, so this is our first section, and then this is a clone. This is just for mobile if we want to add the effects for mobile too. Then we have our third section and fourth section, and we're going to add a few effects. So let's go back up, and the first thing we want to do is to add some vertical parallax. So I'm just going to click on the 6 little dots here to edit my section, and as usual, I'm going to show you the other way to do it would be to click on the section, and then you can edit it. And actually, I'm going to rename the second section because the second section is for mobile. So I'm just going to make sure that I know what I'm working on. So let's work on the first section here. So once you've selected the section, go to Style. Then underneath the background, you see scrolling effects and mouse effects. So for this one, we're going to use scrolling effects. So just switch it on. And then we're going to use vertical scroll. So by default, it's on 4, and let's say you want to make it more subtle, then you can change it to 2.5. And if you're wondering what the viewport is, well, as it says here, 0% is the bottom of the screen and 100% is the top of the screen. So basically, you can specify when should the effect start from the bottom and when should it stop at the top. Here it's 0 to 100, so it's going to use the full height of the screen you're watching this on to apply the effect. Okay, so let's look at it. Yeah, that looks nice. So just to make sure, let's update. Okay, and now let's move to the front end. Okay, so now we're on the front end of our website, and if I scroll down, as you can see, nothing happens because I haven't refreshed the page yet. So let me refresh the page. Okay, and now you can see the parallax effect. It's quite subtle, but in my opinion, it's better to use these effects with subtlety. It's way better when it's subtle. Now, sometimes you may want to have a more dramatic effect, and there are some occasions where you really want to do that, but in most cases, you really want to be subtle so that it looks nice. As you can see, so that works perfectly. Okay, so let's go back to Elementor and let's apply the same effect to our mobile section. So here I click on the section mobile, and just to be sure, actually I'm going to go into mobile mode. Okay, so I'm going to apply the same effect. So go to section. Well, I could copy and paste the style from the first section, but because the first section is for the desktop, I don't really want to copy all the styles from the desktop to the mobile because I had made some changes, especially for the image, for example. So I'm just going to redo it manually. So same thing, underneath the image, you can see scrolling effects, and I'm going to add some vertical scroll, and I'm going to give it a 2.5 speed. Okay, so let's update that. And now, if I just want to test it, see, that's another way you can actually test what you're working on. Most of the time, I go back to the front end in another window just to make sure. But if you just want to test quickly your changes, you can just click on the little arrow here to go into preview mode. And as you can see, we can see the vertical scrolling effects here. So that looks really nice. Okay, so let's go back to editing. Now, I want to go back to desktop mode. Okay, and I want to move to our section number 2. So let me rename it. Section 2. Let me rename all the sections actually. And section 4. And of course, the first one was section 1. And let's call the mobile one section 1 mobile. Okay. So let's move to section number 2. And here we want to add some, well, we can add some vertical parallax too. So you know the drill now, go to style, then scrolling effects, and we're going to give it a more dramatic vertical scroll. So let's leave it at the default speed of 4. Okay, so let's have a view, let's have a preview. So that works really well with the background. With this background, it works really well. With some backgrounds, you really want to decrease the speed, but here it works well. Okay, so let's go back into editing mode. And now we want to add some parallax effects. So first of all, as you can see here in my demo, I had some hover animation. I want to remove that for this tutorial. So I'm just going to click on Edit, then Style, and then I will move on to the Hover tab. And I'm just going to remove the hover animation. Okay. So once we've done that, you can go to Advanced. So we're still editing our first image here. So Advanced, then Motion Effects, and we're going to switch on the mouse effects. So we can mouse track, and by default, it goes to the opposite direction, and the speed is 1. Oh, let me switch that back on. And you can also add some 3D details. So first of all, let's have a look at the mouse track. So when I move the mouse, it's going to move whether I'm hovering over the image or not. So you see how it works. Now we can also add some 3D details. So I'm just going to add that and go into preview mode. Well, you can't really see it. Well, I can see it here, but it's really, really subtle, and you may want to deactivate the mouse effect, the mouse track. So let me reset the mouse track back to default. And here it's very subtle because it's the level and the speed that I've used. So let me go back 3D tilt, and let me make the speed much more dramatic, so 10. So as you can see here, it's really tilting, and you can really see the difference. But this is not what I want to use for this tutorial. So this is not what I want to use for this tutorial. So let me go back. So I'm just going to reset the 3D tilt to default, and I'm going to switch the mouse track back on with the default setting. So just gotta be careful because I keep on switching that back off, so you may run into the same issue. So let's have a final look, and that looks great. But we also want the other one to have that effect. So for this one, I'm just going to right click on the edit icon of the first image. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to right click on the edit icon of the second image, and I'm going to paste the style. And now when I move, you can see both images are in sync actually, and I don't really want them to move in the same direction. So let me click on edit on the second image, then advanced. Then I go to motion effects. It's already on because we've just copied, we've just pasted the style from the first image. And I'm just going to change the settings of the mouse track. So for that, I click on the edit icon, and then instead of opposite, I'm going to give it a direct direction. So as you can see now, it's different, feels more natural. So let me update that so I can save my work, and let's move into preview mode. Okay, so as you can see, that's exactly what we wanted. So that looks good. Okay, so let's look at what we've achieved so far. Here we have the subtle vertical parallax. Here we have a more dramatic vertical parallax and some mouse track motion effects. Okay, so now let's move to the third section. So just going to make sure I select my third section here. And here I want to do two things. If you recall from the demo, I want to add some horizontal parallax so that the background moves either to the left or to the right. And then I want to rotate that image here. Okay, so for the first one, make sure that your section is selected, then go to the Style tab, and underneath the background image, switch on the scrolling effect. And here we're going to choose horizontal scroll. So as you can see, that's already working. And I want to make it more subtle, so let me change it to 1. Yeah, that looks better in my opinion, but of course you're free to use whichever speed that you prefer. Okay, so once again, I switch it off without wanting to do it. So in terms of maybe UI, there's something to see here, or maybe it's just my fault. But let's move on to the planet here. So click on the edit icon, and now we want to go to advanced motion effects, scrolling effects on, and we're going to use the rotate feature. So as you can see, that's working fine. Now you can change the speed if you want to make it way faster. It's not really what I want to do, so I'm going to keep it on 1. That looks better in my opinion. And let's have a preview. So as you can see, that's exactly what we wanted. And if we look at the previous section, it really gives a feeling of everything is slowly moving, but you can see there's some life on this page. And that's what we love about those effects. But of course, you know, for this demo, I'm using a lot of effects, but in a real life scenario, you don't want to use effects on each and every section and each and every item, because that's going to look very amateurish. So you really want to pick and select what you want to animate and make sure that it all looks nice all together. Okay, so that looks fine. Now there's some jittering here, but I'm in preview mode, so you need to take that into account also. So let's move on to our fourth and final section, and here I'm just going to animate the image here. So first of all, click on the edit icon. Then now you know the drill, go to the advanced tab, motion effects. We're going to switch on the scrolling effects, and we're going to add a few. So the first one we're going to add is the scale. So we want our image to scale, and we're going to leave it at 20 to 80 in the viewport. So once again, it means that the effect is going to start at when you're at 20% from the bottom of the screen to 80%. So let's have a look. Yeah. So that works great. Then we also want to rotate our image. So let's rotate it to the right. Okay. And speed 1 is fine. And for this one, we're going to keep it from 0 to 100 because we really want the effect to start as soon as we actually see the image. Now, the next one is the blur. And for this one, I'm going to change the viewport. So I want it to start at 10% up until 50%. So I want the effect to happen faster. So as you can see, when I start scrolling vertically, then when I'm at 50%, it's already in focus. And that's what I wanted for this tutorial. Now, as you can see, you can change the level of blur, but I like it like that. But of course, feel free to play with the blur and with the different settings, because depending on the background you have, the image you have in the foreground, you may want to try different settings, and each case is going to be different. Now, let's move on to the final effect for this one. It's going to be transparency. So click on transparency. And for this one, I want it to happen even faster. So I'm going to select from 30% to 50%. And I'm going to keep it as a fade in, but you can also have fade out in, and fade in out. I invite you to play with those settings. Once again, it's very different depending on what you're trying to achieve. And I'm going to keep it at level 10 because I've already tried it and it works well. But once again, feel free to test the settings. So as we scroll, you don't see the image yet. So maybe your eyes are focused on the background and the text. And then once you start scrolling and you get this 30% of the viewport from the bottom, then you start seeing the image appearing, but it's blurred because we also applied that effect. And as we scroll down, then it's getting bigger and in total focus. And that's what I wanted. Okay, so we could also try something I did not try in the demo. So let me select the section, go to style. I'm going to add some scrolling effects, and let's add some scale to the background. Yeah, so it's even more dramatic. Okay, so let's update. And now let's go into preview mode. Let's go back up, scroll down. And as you can see here, it's working. Once again, it's jittery. That may be because I'm using a lot of effects on this page, a lot of images too, and also the fact that I'm in preview mode. So let me hide the panel. Yeah, my page is updated. Let's move back to the front end and see if that makes a difference. Okay, so let me refresh the page. Okay, so let's start scrolling, and that looks nice. Let's move on to our third section, and it's way smoother than when we're in preview mode. So that's why I always like to test in two different browser windows. So usually I will work in incognito or private mode in Elementor, and then I use the regular browser to test the front end. So this is way better, not as jittery as in the preview mode. But you can understand when you're in preview mode, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on. You're already in Elementor, there's a lot of resources used, so that kind of makes sense. Whereas here, you're just reading the page. Okay, so one more time, let's go back. You can see the subtle animation works really nicely, really add some depth to this page. And the last one. Okay, so once again, you don't want to use as many motion effects on one single page, but you get the idea. Now, the last thing I want to test is the mobile mode, but from this window. So let me refresh the page, and we can see we have the parallax applied to the mobile version 2, whereas the other section used the regular desktop version. And that works really well. Well, you may want to add some margin between just underneath the globe so that it looks better for the title. But apart from that, it's working really fine. Now, talking about motion effects on mobile, you want to be even more cautious because unless you're using some flagship phones, if you use a regular phone, it may have less power than the computer you're watching this on, if you're watching this on a computer. But what I'm trying to say is that you may have even less resources on the phone, so you really want to test it out on a real mobile too. So I always test first here in the browser window, simulating here on iPhone 6, 7, or 8. But the best thing to do is also to test on a regular mobile, on a real mobile device. And if you have several devices, that would be even better. But starting testing here in the browser with Google Chrome tools is already a good start. So let's go back to our desktop version. Let's refresh our page. And one last time, let's have a look at what we've built in this tutorial. So we have a beautiful vertical parallax, followed by a more pronounced vertical parallax with some mouse tracking motion effects. Then as we move on to the third section, we have some horizontal parallax in the background, and we are rotating an image at the same time. Then moving to the fourth and last section, we have an image that's initially transparent, completely transparent. Then it starts appearing once you keep on scrolling down, and at the same time it goes for a blurry image to an in focus image. Okay, so I hope that first of all that you enjoyed this tutorial and that you now feel confident to add motion effects. And if there's one thing I want you to remember from this video, I know I've said it many times, but you really pay attention to not using too many motion effects on one single page. You don't want every part to be moving on your website. Unless, of course, it's it's a gaming website or it's really something where motion is crucial. But if it's just a regular website or a professional website, you really want to use subtle motion effects. So, as I said, I've said it many times, but I really want to help you also create professional designs, and that's where it starts. If you don't have Elementor Pro yet, then I hope that this video will convince you to go pro. Not just for the eye candy, but also for the fact that the Elementor team is listening and they roll out awesomeness upon awesomeness for the same price. Whether you are creating a website professionally or for a single project, it's going to pay itself several times over if you consider what you can achieve with this tool and the time you are not going to waste. Now, if you're interested in purchasing Elementor Pro, you will find the link in the description of this episode. To be crystal clear, this is an affiliate link, which means that I do get a commission if you purchase a license after clicking on my link. But one, I only recommend Elementor Pro because I love the product and I use it daily. And two, commissions help me support this channel and create free content. So I hope that you now feel confident to add parallax and beautiful motion effects to your Elementor Pro powered website. Let me know in the comments, and by the way, you find the companion blog post on my website Kissina.com, and of course, the direct link is also in the description of this episode. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like it as it really helps growing this channel, and if you know someone that could benefit from it, please share it now. If you're not yet a subscriber, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and smash the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Now, if you want to brand, market, and grow your business in the digital age, then make sure you subscribe to my email newsletter so that you never miss a share of digital alchemy, as well as tips, tools, services, and case studies that can help you grow your business online. So that's it for this episode. I hope to see you around, and in the meantime, don't forget to invest
in your success.